It's about that time.
Serious though.
What's happening in your city? City views, city views. City views, city views. You got love for your city? City views.
Hello, everyone. Jacque Williams here, your host for City Views. And so glad to be here with you on this very auspicious evening here in the fine city of Torrington, Connecticut. It is Tuesday, September 29th, and there's so much going on. I know normally I'm at my place. However, we're having issues with technical issues, let's just say. So I'm here at our producer's place, Dan Morrison, and I understand now why he looks so comfortable when he's, because this thing he has here is just like, man, I feel like dancing, but you know how we roll here on City Views. Want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Toth Insurance Agency, located at 1151 East Main Street. And we want to thank them for their support of City Views. We have here with us this evening, Maria Horn from the 64th District of Connecticut. Maria, how are you tonight?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on with you tonight. It's nice to see you.
Stephen Ivane was like really pumping the brakes on us. He's like, you got to get Maria on one more time. So, which we were planning to do anyway. But, we want to make sure that everyone's happy.
Good. I got lots of supporters out there doing good work on my behalf. So I'm grateful for that.
Now, as we were talking earlier, we were hoping to interview you last week, but with everything going on and all the technical difficulties, we're just getting to you tonight. So, but being that as it is, what an evening it is in our country, in our state, and here locally in our community. And it's like the harmonic convergence.
It really is. I tell you, I was at as you say, for a host of reasons. Tonight, I was at the grocery store a little while ago, and all the people I ran into were, are you going to watch the debate? How are you going to watch the debate? What are you looking for? What should I, and what's going to happen tomorrow? So yes, there's lots happening at the moment.
Well, I think in light of that, and under these very, let's just say, unusual circumstances that we're living in, I think we're going to see tonight, at least I'm hoping that we see, a display of values. What's important? What are those priority issues, both personally and as far as the country goes, that are going to be important to focus on in the future. Would you mind giving us an insight on how you feel about your position as a public servant and what values that you feel are important to bring to your work?
Yeah, thanks. So, I ran in part because I really do feel you have to bring, your values have to be the thing that guides you with respect to everything you do, particularly at a time of challenge. And at that point, I was talking about some of Connecticut's fiscal challenges. And of course, advanced 2 years, and we've got a whole host of new challenges in front of us, which are, of course, also, repeated in fiscal challenges, both for the government and economic challenges for so many people in the district, many of whom never thought that they were perfectly financially stable until just a few months ago, and are now really worried. And that phrase tempers. People are tired. People are afraid. People don't know what's coming yet. And when that's the case, what you have to do is, lead with your values and also listen with some patience. I have really, and you and I have discussed this before, some of my favorite things about running, 2 years ago and knocking on people's doors were the conversations I had with people who were, very different from me politically, and sometimes started a conversation hostilely, putting up barriers and saying, we have nothing in common. And if you can meet them with, actually, I bet we do. Let's chat for a few minutes. Maybe we start about your dog, and then we talk about our fathers who were veterans, and then we move on to, all kinds, what we're reading, what we're happen to be reading at the moment, whatever. You can build common ground with people. And that's what it's that building of common ground, which I think is really important right now. Sometimes people write about that common ground is something you find common ground. You don't find common ground, you make it. And you do it. Sometimes you have to bring out, bring a lot of elbow grease to it, and chop down the weeds that have grown in the space, and open up the space and create it by listening to people, by understanding people who've had different life experiences than you have, rather than coming with your own perspective. Instead, take a pause and ask some questions and figure out where somebody's coming from and why maybe they're hostile or angry. And maybe it's because, of some things happening in their life. And that applies for people who may have lost a job, somebody suffering from addiction. I mean, you name it. We've got a whole host of things that people are dealing with right now. And if we can listen to one another and try to find solutions that can help all of us, I think we can move forward.
I think one of the, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there seems to be that sentiment. People are resentful of not only our government, but our government representatives. And a lot of people feel that people are going into public service just to better themselves, and not only to better themselves, but to enrich themselves. Of course, I know that that's not your motivation for doing what you do, but why do you think it is that people, or do you think that there's that much resentment out there amongst the public?
I think you're right. And it's partly because I think a lot of that is driven by the fact that the way our economy, particularly in Connecticut, has been structured over time. And particularly this is true since the last, economic downturn, when our economy recovered, but the spoils went to a very few number of people, and everybody else, and that includes, workers, small businesses, you name it, got left behind. And they're pretty much where they were or worse off than they were 10 years ago. And that's before COVID. And so people are looking to get a foothold and try to understand why that's happening. And sometimes that means that people look for someone to blame. And you do see, I will say at the federal level, we're seeing exactly what you refer to, people who are going into this to advance, their own economic wealth. And it's really disheartening, and it's hard to believe that anyone would go into this to do something that is publicly motivated. So on the other hand, this is a moment. I mean, first of all, Connecticut, I think we're getting some of that in Connecticut. It's filtering down, but there's a lot that the Connecticut legislature does that is overwhelmingly bipartisan. Almost 2/3 of the legislation we passed in 2019 had fewer than 20 people voting against it. So there's still stuff there that we're working on, that we work together on. And there's still that, sometimes people speak in hostile terms, but we talk to one another and we work together and we get things done. And one of the things that's interesting about this moment in particular, after having, hearing in particular from Republicans about, as you say, government, we need to cut government, slash workers, all this stuff. Suddenly government really mattered during COVID. We really all, everybody was very upset. We didn't have enough people working at the Department of Labor. After being, touting how much we've slashed the state payroll, having actual people who could take a phone call from somebody who needed to, work through, getting unemployment for, or filing for shared work, all kinds of programs that a business might apply for as well. Suddenly that mattered. So I think this is a moment in particular where having good government, well run, with values that are going to will try to help everybody and give everybody a chance to bounce back out of this is more important than ever.
We're hearing reports today, Maria, about New York returning kids back to school. And we're also hearing that they are having some spikes.
Yeah.
That could pose very interesting dilemmas for the residents of Connecticut. I understand how people are a little upset at the governor for exerting his executive orders. But how prudent do you think he really has to be in making those decisions and determining what the next 3 to 6 months of this coronavirus is going to look like?
I have a few responses to that. First of all, I'll just share with I was out knocking on a bunch of doors in Torrington with Representative Michelle Cook and the Lieutenant Governor yesterday to do mostly about the census. We were focusing on making sure that people filled out census forms, but we were in a pretty conservative neighborhood, and ran into a very friendly Republicans who were very conservative, but they went out of their way to say, oh, by the way, I think the governor's doing a good job. So I think there's a difference between people who have a political advantage in criticizing what the governor has done and are trying to make hay with that, and people on the ground who are actually have kids that they want, are sending to school, want to reopen their businesses. Maybe they have a restaurant that they want to build consumer confidence so that people will come back into that, who see what the governor has done as being really important, not just for public health, obviously, but also for the reopening of the economy. I think it's a false choice for us to talk about, do you want to reopen or do you want to protect public health? We're not going to, the economy as of October 8th will be 99% open. But that doesn't mean it's going to be functioning at 99% because we have to build consumer confidence. We have to give people the confidence to know that when they go out and shop, they're going to be safe. And that when they show up at work, they're going to be safe. People have to rebuild. There was a lot of fear, and we have to rebuild that. And that's done by being careful and by being science-based. I think particularly you also mentioned, because schools, we are watching, the governor did push hard to try to get as much in-person learning as possible. And we know that kids need in-person. I was touring one of the schools in the districts on Monday, and which is doing hybrid learning, of kids, pretty much high school split in half, and half attends Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday's a mixed day, and then the other half's there Thursday and Friday. And they have worked so hard to make this work, and they're trying to be really careful and not be panicky about, things that might not go perfectly. But the hush that's in that building, you really feel, because kids are afraid, teachers are working through new things, they're trying to listen. Everybody's trying to make it work because they want to be together. They want to be with other students and get that sort of social, emotional part of learning that you can't get online. So we know that if kids aren't in school in person, a lot of those kids just don't engage. For some it works and some don't. And when we lose those kids, that affects their health, that affects their financial stability, it affects their lifespan. It has real long-term costs. So I think the governor was right to push to try to reopen schools as much as possible, but also to leave it up to the individual districts, and not all districts have reopened. So we have seen a lot of variability. We've seen some of the public health metrics tick up a little bit, but not too much. And to your point, we have to watch what's happening in New York, because, there's no wall at the border between Connecticut and Massachusetts or New York. So we have to be very careful about what's happening across our borders. But I think we're doing that.
Definitely you are. Now, you have a big election coming up.
Indeed. November 3rd, actually, starting October 2nd, because absentee ballots will be available on October 2nd. So the election is not a single day this year.
If you are fortunate enough to get a victory in this term, what are your top 3 issues that you're going to take back to the State House on behalf of your constituents in the Northwest corner?
Well, I would say the first one is healthcare. I think one of the lessons that has come out of this pandemic is the public and public health, that we all do better if we're paying attention to each other's health. My health is connected to your health. I just can't take care of my own individual health needs without, if I can take care of everybody in the community, I'm going to be more healthy. And so we really do need to have approaches to healthcare that deliver quality, affordable healthcare to everyone in the district. And we have to do, in the state, we have to do what we can to do that. We're fighting an uphill battle with the what's happening at the federal level. It's very worrisome that the Affordable Care Act might not last. I'm actually hopeful that it will survive Supreme Court challenge, but that's a more complicated conversation. But it is, healthcare bringing down. We have done some work bringing down, prescription drug prices. That we just this summer passed the insulin cap. We expanded telehealth. I think we have to do a lot of work to, work on perhaps creating a public option. That's something that every nonprofit and every small business that I talk to wants us to do that, because what's crushing a lot of small businesses and making it really hard for them to raise wages, which they would ordinarily be doing, is the ballooning of healthcare costs. That has squeezed their budget so hard that they can't raise wages. And if we can help them with that part of their income statement, then they can, do what they want to do for their workforce. So I think we need really to push hard to create that public option to allow small businesses and nonprofits to participate in the same kind of healthcare system that state employees do. So that's the first part. Related to that is generally it's going to be, the big picture of fiscal stability. Connecticut was looking at we have kicked the can down the road for many years on our unfunded liabilities, our pension liabilities. I think we made a good start at that in 2019 when we restructured them into a more sustainable payment schedule and put money aside to shore up that system. But we have, we're not done. And with the, economic downturn brought on by the pandemic, we have some challenges ahead. And I think we're going to have to be creative and steady about how we go about taking care of the people of Connecticut while taking care of our economy. I mean, that's the same thing. People of Connecticut are the economy. It's made up of the residents here. And a lot of that's going to be a big question there is the federal government, because we cannot do for the community what we'd like to do unless we get help at the federal level. And that's true not just for Connecticut, it's true for every state in this country. And so the level of, I was going to say apathy, but it's not even apathy, it's vindictiveness happening at the federal level. Like, if you don't agree with me and you don't show loyalty to me, then I'm going to stiff on you. And that's not government. That's not the way government is supposed to work, and it's really very disheartening. Is the low key term for it. But we really are going to need federal help for that. And the third thing I would say that also connects to this is connectivity, which is something I've been trying to work on since I've been in office and before, because I think improving connectivity in our neck of the woods ties to our economy, it ties to education, it ties to healthcare, it ties to everything, because it helps. We are now seeing a shift. I just talked to Marty Connor the other day in the city planner's office about how many people are moving into Torrington and throughout the area. There's actually a huge demographic shift going on. We want to keep those people. They are enrolling in our schools. A lot of schools, elementary schools in particular in the district, were really struggling with their populations, and now they're up by 10, 20, 25%. So we want those families to stay here. We want them to be able to work here. We want them to be able to access the kind of healthcare they need. And to do that, we have to make sure that we provide better infrastructure to connect them to their businesses in other cities and to healthcare institutions and specialists that might not be in the northwest corner. So that's a push for infrastructure. And I think I'm now often when I walk into a room or a Zoom room or more often these days with the governor and people on that, they all expect me to eventually bring up connectivity because it underpins everything. And I think they understand that. And I think we will be looking for ways to invest in that infrastructure, although it will be hard.
Well, you have pushed definitely that third issue pretty hard since your tenure in office. I think it's even more relevant now with the coronavirus, because what might be a choice today might be mandatory tomorrow.
You're absolutely right. And I remember we have a couple of local organizations that have been working on this for many years, including Northwest Connect. And they've been trying to put together regional solutions. And I remember early in my tenure going to some of their presentations pre-pandemic, and people were, this is interesting, but I think I'm okay. And now you have two parents trying to work from home. You have kids trying to study from home. Suddenly they realize, oh no, we're not okay. What we thought we had is just not up to the task. And so there is a increased level of awareness right now of the importance of that connection. And I think we need to use that moment because the urgency is here, and we don't want kids to be left behind. We don't want people who've moved here and are running businesses out of their, home-based businesses, to say, oh my gosh, I can't do that. I mean, one of the frustrating things, a lot of people moved up to the area, enrolled their kids in school, and then Isaiah came along and turned out the lights. And for several days. And it was really a moment of, oh, great. All these people came up here and decided to try living in the country, and we really tested them. So we really do. So I would say that connectivity also extends to how we manage our energy suppliers as well.
Another component in the interworkings of the Northwest Corner is the Northwest COG. And I know that you're involved with the COG in a number of different initiatives that they have. But the one initiative that they're working on that I know is close to your heart is their farm to family, to farm to table initiative. Talk a little bit about that. And I know lately you've been doing some food drives because obviously you see the impact of the coronavirus and how that's created a need that is pressing capacity.
Absolutely.
Talk to our audience a little bit about that, Maria.
Sure. So first of all, just to reiterate what you said about the need, it's real, and these food drives food delivery drives, produce drives in our area and throughout the state are filled with people who've never been to one before and never imagined that they would need this. And so there is real need, and we have to find ways to meet it. But I tell you something that's very frustrating, and this is something I do talk to the COG about, because so there is a nationwide program run by the USDA called Farmers to Families, and that is what provided the produce that when we did a produce delivery out of Houstonic Valley Regional High School this summer, and so the COG applied to be part of that program because they saw a real win-win there to help the local farmers, because there was a real disruption of the supply chain in terms of getting local agricultural produce products to people in need. And we heard all kinds of stories of dairy farmers having to throw away milk, other crops that just can't deliver it out of the field. There were huge problems. They couldn't get enough workers, and so the COG really worked on a program that would have helped the farmers in the area, and it would have gotten produce to people who needed good, healthy food. The federal government turned them down, and so instead, these food drives are important, and they are providing good, healthy food to people. So we have to keep doing it, but they're coming from industrial agriculture from Michigan and Florida, when we have farms here in the Northeast that need help. And so we are trucking, and people are making money out of this at other parts of the country who are, have connections at the federal level. And it is very frustrating because we could have such, with some help from the federal government, we could have such a great program that would be good for so many more people. So that part has been definitely frustrating because the COG has worked so hard on the food hub and the farm to table program, and these are all programs that are positioned to do really well, and with a little bit of support they could really do great things.
Well, speaking of doing great things, Maria, That is your middle name. Maria Great Things Horn.
Okay.
We're going to keep tooting your horn, girl, because you're doing a good job up in there.
Thanks, Doc. I'll take that.
Yes, definitely. And I'm sure that we'll probably be talking to you at least one more time before the election, because it seems that you're back in popular demand. So,
Well, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, Jacque. So anytime.
Likewise, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Have a great night.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the 64th District of Connecticut, the Northwest corner, Maria Horn on today's City Views.
City Views, City Views.